Hello and welcome. This is People, Politics and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Today we shall focus our attention on an aspect of life that affects each and every one of us directly: food and agriculture. A recent global report on food crisis for the year 2021 stated that over 151 million people in 55 countries and territories of the world are acutely food insecure and in need of urgent international assistance. He said the magnitude and severity of the crisis is beyond local capacities and responses. Of course, this simple interpretation is that hundreds of millions of people around the world are at risk of starvation, due mainly to security challenges, climate change, increased cost of agricultural production, and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. The African continent has always been one of the hardest hit by food crisis. It was perhaps against this backdrop that the Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF, was founded in 2003 to address Africa's food security prospects through agricultural technology. The AATF was set up on the premise that the agricultural sector is a key pillar as Africa consolidates its economic growth and, of course, carves out its new position as a major global economic powerhouse of the world and, of course, the next growth market in the world. It was formed in response to the need for an effective mechanism to facilitate and support negotiations for technology access and delivery and the formation of appropriate partnerships to manage the development and deployment of innovative technologies for use by smallholder farmers. AATF and its partners are working in 8 African countries to ensure food security, environmental protection, and health services through the use of technology. In Nigeria, AATF and partners are working with the Ministry of Science, Innovation and Technology, alongside the Ministries of Agriculture and Rural Development, Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Environment to encourage technology adoption in agriculture, environment, and health. Now, this is going to be our focus today, and our guests who are right here with us in the studio, 2 of them. But first, the man who is at the driver's seat of the process, of the AATF process. He is the Executive Director of AATF, Dr. Canisius Kanagire, who is, of course, visiting Nigeria. Thank you so much, Dr. Kanagire, for joining us. And with him is Dr. Issoufou Kollo. Dr. Kollo is the AATF Regional Representative for West Africa. Dr. Kollo, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. All right, let's take a short break. When we return, we will be diving straight into the whole process of trying to get technology to enhance agricultural productivity in Africa. Stay with us. All right, thank you so much. Our guest, Dr. Canisius Kanagire, who is the Executive Director of AATF, and Dr. Issoufou Kollo, the AATF Regional Representative for West Africa. And we'll be talking agriculture and what role technology can play in enhancing agricultural productivity in African countries, a continent that is so hit by food crisis. Every year we undergo this whole process, and the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has not made things any much easier for most African countries. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Let's begin with the concept of AATF. How did that come about in the first place?
I think, as you said in the introduction, it was observed, but that in African country, we have been practicing agriculture without enough adoption and use of knowledge and innovations that are produced by our research centers, our innovators, our inventors. So, and that kept the level of productivity, the level of post-harvesting management, and other technology products very low. And yet, we have a very rapidly growing population where the need for food is increasing and food crisis is also very much increasing. So we needed not to say that we will continue to encourage expansion of cultivated land, but rather improving on technology so that productivity and production can be increased to match the demand of a growing population. So, and then a number of consortium and citizens of this continent set together and created that organization which would bring technologies from those who generate the technology, get it licensed or royalty free so that it can be accessed by smallholder farmers on the African continent, because those technologies can be very expensive. And if we bring them at that high cost level, the population which would benefit from them, the smallholder farmers, may not be at this stage able to afford it. So AATF is that broker which will go and negotiate the technologies, scout technologies which are beneficial for a number of challenges in Africa, bring them to the smallholder farmers, accompany them in the application of those technologies so that they can yield the benefit that are intended. And we have been playing that role for now almost 20 years.
So what we are saying, Dr. Kanagire, is that this was meant to help in getting affordable technology into Africa. Technology that ordinarily would be very expensive for the smallholder farmer to acquire on their own. Well, AATF is helping to bring to their doorsteps affordable technology for agricultural productivity.
Yes. Yes, that is what AATF is all about. We bring those technologies like, for example, seeds, improved seeds. Those are varieties that have been selected to respond to a number of threats that are here to address some of the challenges, like, for example, you talked about climate change, to be drought resistant. You can talk also pests, different insects which very much often destroy fields, so, and all the crops. So we can have seeds which are resistant to those pests and insects. So they are selected and put at the disposal of farmers after a very long period and a lot of money involved in that process of getting a variety tested and approved for the benefit that it can increase. So we bring them. We have to test them in our own agroecological environment and validate that indeed they can contribute to solving the problems that we have here. And once we have done it, we need to produce the quantity of seeds that we need for the farmers to access them. And that long process needs to be somehow made affordable for our smallholder farmers. And the AATF negotiate those, build the capacity of different partners on the African continent. And we have done it also with partners in Nigeria, and then go down to the farmers, put the technologies in their hand, and build their capacity, follow up on how they apply it, so that we can make sure that they are getting the benefits that we intend to have.
Dr. Kollo, statistically, how large is the farming or farmers' population on the, in West Africa?
Farmers' population in West Africa, it depends on the country. Nigeria is the largest the largest country in West Africa, but I think now the rural people in Nigeria is less than 50%. If you go to other countries, you got 70–80% of people still living in rural areas. So the big towns, there is a trend. The big towns are still pulling out a lot of people from the rural areas, and especially and unfortunately the younger ones. So that most of the rural areas, the workforce in the rural areas are really composed of old people. The younger don't want to go into agriculture anymore. They are living in big cities, doing a kind of many type of job in big cities. So that's another constraint we need to face. The workforce producing our food in the sub-region is more and more getting old. Is getting older and older. So is it the old to feed the young, or the young to feed the old? That's the question now African countries, and to my knowledge, even East Africa is facing this problem.
And added to that is the whole challenge of insecurity, and then of course climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic that ravaged the world in 2020. These have seem to have compounded the problems of old age of the farming population in the West African sub-region, and perhaps most other parts of Africa too. And then, of course, there is the whole question of the fact that a large portion of these farmers are subsistent farmers.
You put it very right. A large portion of these farmers are subsistence farmers, which means what they produce, they grow, is to feed primarily their family. The surplus is sold in the market to get cash. So it put some restraints. What are some consequences if you get only smallholder farmers? The big towns like Abuja, Lagos, they don't produce their own food. They have to import. So if the producers cannot produce enough, you will get price increase in the big towns and high demand, and in the long run, if it lasts, you will get social troubles. So agricultural production is not only for food to eat, the food security, it is for social stability, peace in the society. This is that aspect, people miss it very often. Food production is for social stability and peace in the society also. So I want people to realize that.
Yes, flowing from that, Dr. Kanagire, in the last 20 years of the existence of the AATF, how much has he done, or how successful has he been in trying to get some of the subsistence farmers to adopt technology in their farming processes?
Very good question. I would say during the AATF's life, one of the achievements we have brought to Africa is a number of varieties which are capable of addressing key challenges. Like, for example, on cowpea, bringing in a variety of cowpea which can resist the pod-borer diseases and be resistant to that, and ensure that the farmer can get a higher productivity, is one of the things which address the shortage of cowpea in West Africa. And it started in Nigeria. That is one. The second is the work we are doing on maize, which is drought-tolerant variety, and some other varieties of maize which can resist both to the drought, but also to some insects. So those technologies are available. We worked also on groundnut and other, depending on the priorities of regions in this continent. So in terms of how many have we been able to reach, I would say more than 12 million African farmers have been able to be reached out. But also some other stakeholders in the value chain, in the agricultural value chain. How many adopted? The adoption of those varieties depend very much of also the openness of the institutions dealing with the agriculture to accept the technology to come in terms of those seeds. But we have more than 8 countries that have adopted improved seeds in their agriculture, going from down to South Africa to countries like Nigeria, but also some tests are taking place in other countries on different varieties of rice, of maize, of cowpea, and for non-food crops on BT cotton in some other countries. Now, in terms of other technologies which would come to increase the benefit of people adopting them, we have also brought in mechanization, which will, I think, also address the issue my brother here has talked about of the youth not involved in agriculture. I think it is because of very intense labor, exhausting labor, which is required. But if we bring in mechanization, it will be more attractive. And we have already some spin-off companies which bring mechanization close to the farmers so that, again, the affordability can be involved. The farmer does not need to buy his or her own tractors, but rather access the services from our companies dealing with that. The agro-processors, so that we can add value to the produces instead of having them rotting in the stores. And he talked about digital agriculture, on how to apply it to improve on the expenditures we can incur to fight against weeds or to apply fertilizers and monitor the field when they are very large. So we have brought all those to many, I would say millions of people, and there are many testimonies of the resistance of the seeds, the yield, which is increased, and the benefit they are receiving from all the countries where we are currently, and we are operating on different bases, but in 23 countries of the continent we are already there, and giving them services or addressing key priorities that they have, and creating an open mind to receive those technologies through policy dialogue or capacity building and other types of awareness creation.
So you are in 23 countries in Africa, an improvement for what I said before of 8 countries. That's good to know. But in these 23 countries, in which of them would you say you have been most successful?
I think it will depend on the key activities that we are involved in, but not only because I'm seated currently in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, but I think I'm very proud of what Nigeria is doing in this area. I will say it on 3 major fronts. The first one is that last year, it is Nigeria that approved the commercialization of the first transgenic cowpea, which is addressing key challenges farmers used to have with their field devastated by insects. That is one. The second is that it is 1-2 months, I think, that Tailor maize, a maize which resists to the drought, a maize which resists to insects, a maize which can grow fast and yield better, has been approved for environmental release in Nigeria. It is in Nigeria also that we have a spin-off which develops mechanization and where we are applying digital with drones surveying the big field of cassava, for example. It is in Nigeria that we have the second company dealing with the seed, EcoBasic, which we will launch in 2 days from today. So Nigeria has taken very big steps towards bringing biotechnology to the farmers. And many institutions working with us have really built their capacity and are very determined to move in that direction. Biosafety, capacity building, multiplication of seed, bringing them to the people. I think Nigeria is a very successful case. Other countries like Kenya are following the suit, and I think very soon we'll have Tailor maize adopted. For Tailor maize, South Africa had done it very long ago. They are now reaping the benefit of using biotechnology. And I believe that with Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and other countries that are making big steps towards the right target of ensuring food security of their population through the use of technology, I think soon we will be creating a platform where all those good cases, all those lessons can be shared so that Africa can be open to the same technologies that have improved food and nutrition security in other developing countries like Argentina, like Brazil, and some others. So we believe that soon we'll make more successes. As you know, you build more success on the success. So, and we are making good steps in Nigeria.
We will come back to these improved seedlings and crops that you talk about. But Dr. Kollo, let me go back to what Dr. Kanagire talked about before, and that's talking about the mechanization process and the fact that smallholder farmers can begin to access mechanized technologies without having to on their own buy tractors, for instance, for their farming and all of that. How accessible are these tractors, are these new technologies that they have to possibly rent when they want to go about their farming processes? And how have they been able to cope with that process so far?
Okay, thank you very much for asking these questions. It will bring me back a few years when AATF started its operation implementing in Nigeria. In fact, the first project we have is called the Cassava Mechanization Project. It is a collaborative project with the Nigerian Mechanization Center in Kokwara, Ilorin. It was a good project because many people doubted, since the cassava producers have very small acreage, at best 1 hectare, isn't 0.5, and they are dispersed. We sat down, think, and said, no, we can mechanize. So we bought the tractors, we talked to the farmers, and we bought the tractors. We bought from Brazil some harvester, to dig the cassava, because the roots are in soil. So you don't ask young people, 10 years old boys, or you don't ask 60 years old men to come and uproot this cassava. They don't have the necessary strength. So we bought the harvester, the cassava harvester from Brazil. We brought them in Nigeria. But our intention was, when we get this equipment, income, the National Agricultural Mechanization Center will be able to duplicate some of these equipments and make them available. So that was also part of the objectives. So we organize farmers into groups. When farmers are organized, they can achieve something. So they pay back all the services only after they sell their agricultural produce. And they are paying. We got more than 99% recovery rate. They are really, and they love the project. So the cassava yield, which was 8 tons per hectare, jumped to 32 tons per hectare in that area. So the services, the project had some little bit problems because of, but it will continue. It will continue. Because even, I think, the results were so good that even IFAD, the Institute for Agricultural Development, being of FAO, had given us around some money to continue the work. So these are the kind of mechanization work AATF came in, and we show that it worked. And this work was repeated, I think, in Uganda and another country, which was it in Southern Africa. So, but it is the success of Nigeria which brings us to model it. So Nigeria, our research in Nigeria has been very successful, very successful.
Yeah. And on that same thing, currently we have AgriDrive, which works from Ibadan, and we have a number of, it's a company which was created by AATF, and it has a number of tractors which are rent out to the farmers for cultivation, for yielding, etc. And that, of course, when you are renting for a hectare, you will pay a few naira, a few thousand of naira, which is very affordable, instead of spending time cultivating with the hoe. So your hectare will be cultivated very quickly. You don't need to mobilize the whole family to do that. And it frees the farmer and his family to do something else. So it is working, and the demand is very high. And as Dr. Kollo said, the payback is coming because it is a service rendered. Now, you talked about COVID-19 and the lockdown and all the issues. During the lockdown, the farmer could still benefit from those services without moving from his or her house, because an application was developed. So from your mobile phone, you could go to AgriDrive and order the services, specify the geo reference of your field, and the tractor will come and give the services. So it is something which is very much affordable and which is serving the population there. The demand is very high.
I imagine, Dr. Kanagire, that in doing this, the AATF is working with certain partners in each country. Since you cannot be in every country and in every region of the country. For instance, you cannot be in the southwest of Nigeria, you cannot be in the northeast or south-south, as the case may be. You must be working with certain partners in the agricultural value chain.
Yeah.
Yes.
How well has that panned out?
I think Dr. Kollo will say the name specifically for this region and for Nigeria in specific. But indeed, we cannot do all that work alone. We work very much with partners in all the countries where we are. And in Nigeria, we have great partners. And since morning, I have been meeting with them, actually since yesterday when I came in. Some are at institutional level, developing technology, deploying the technology, accompanying the farmers, but also some are anchors where we anchor all those activities. I think my brother here can add more.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Edie. So I will tell thank you. We don't work alone. When we came into a country, it's because we have partners, very good partners. Our partners, we work, first of all, where we are housed. It is the Agricultural Research Council, who negotiate with the National Extension Office to give us a place, an office room. So we are very thankful for this. I mean, the Agricultural Research Council, which had 18 agricultural research institutes under its umbrella. So one of our main partners, beside IACRN, the extension agent, is Ahmad Bello University, the Institute of Agricultural Research. It is in collaboration with the Institute IR, Ahmad Bello University, that we have developed the pot borer resistant bean. So my boss is saying cowpea, but in Nigeria people use the word bean. Okay. The common people use the word beans. So, and also the Tela maize, which is drought resistant, and other, it is in collaboration with Ahmad Bello University, IER. The National Cereal Research Institute is one of also our partners, strong partners, because we got a project on rice, how to develop a very water use and nitrogen use efficient rice. And probably maybe the rice hybrids we are developing may find its way here. So if you go, the cassava one, I tell you we are working with income. And also the National Seed Council, Agricultural Seed Council, National Biotechnology Development Agency are very strong partners. We work with them in many areas. So the National Seed Council help us to get, they are the one, they have to certify any seed you produce, they have to certify it. So at least for this reason, your one is obliged to go towards them. So the seed has to be registered in Nigeria, we have to go to them. And also they help us very importantly to get the pot borer resistant, the new seeds. It was in the seed codex and also the seed tracker. So every farmer buying our seed, the tracker had a scratch number you can scratch and get it. The farmer, when he dial it on the telephone, mobile telephone, get immediate answer if the seed is genuine or it is faked. So this technology exists in Nigeria, and the National Seed Council make it available for us. So I need, thank you for asking the question. I really need to express my gratitude to all of them, and also very strong support from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture.
And of course there is the IITA in Ibadan.
Yeah.
Are you collaborating with that institution too?
Oh, it is unavoidable. We have to collaborate. It is a strong partner. So it is, which is among the CGR, IITA is certainly one of our main collaborators. This is why almost every year we do our annual meeting in IITA Ibadan, like the project I am managing. We do our, and the rice project also very often, because we go to IITA to do our annual meetings. So to keep our collaboration with IITA. So.
Okay, Dr. Kanagire, let's talk about the crops, the modified crops, the improved seedlings and all of that. Now, how does this work? How do you come up with a crop? And how long does it take to modify a crop? How long does the research take before you come up with a modified seedling or a modified crop, and then give it a pass to be used by farmers?
Thank you very much for that question. I will, at my level, I will say it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. It takes a long and tedious process, because you need to make sure that you are producing something which will be useful for the farmers, which will address a key problem. So that we don't take much time and probably on my level forget some details, let me give that question to Dr. Kollo, who does it as a key business, those technical things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sir, it takes time to develop a variety, even by conventional breeding. Even if you take like countries which are very rich, got all the means, like in US, it takes at least 10 years. When you start, the breeder, the scientist, start his work until it gets into the hand of farmers. You are talking about 10 years, even in the countries we had. So in our case, it takes developing a variety, a new variety takes time. People don't see it because the common people don't expect that agriculture is science, like in chemistry or in physics. People do not associate agriculture with science. So I want just to give the information here to let common people know, but agricultural science is science as any other science. Physics, mathematics, chemistry, it is science. We use the same process, the same methodology, scientific methodology. But people think agriculture is only the business of the farmers who are poor rural people. No, it's like thinking that the development of your telephone is just the business of the users, not the business of the engineer and scientists who develop it. No, it is the business of the engineer and scientist. So it takes time. It takes time to develop a variety, 10 and 20, or about 10 years. And it is not guaranteed. Because for success to be guaranteed, you need to work with the stakeholders. You got to know what the market likes for a variety. You got to know what the market likes, what the processors like, and exactly come up with variety which had the same characteristic, all the attributes they like. So, and when I say breeder, it's not only the breeder, it is a whole research team which work together. You got the breeder, you got the specialists of disease. Many people don't know that plant get disease. Plant get disease, the same thing. So plant get insect which attack them, the same time mosquitoes attack us. So all these people work together in a team. Plus the biochemist, who is the food specialist, to be sure that it has the same nutritive qualities as any other varieties in the area. So it is a lot of work, a lot of teamwork for at least minimum 10 years to get a good variety.
And over the years, there's been a lot of hue and cry, especially from environmentalists and from other agricultural experts who say the genetically modified crops or seedlings do have some problems and that they are not fit for human consumption. I don't know how AATF is dealing with this.
We deal with it like other countries who adopted that level of biotechnology dealt with. As Dr. Kollo said, there is a long process. The process involves the production of that variety, but then it is tested in very strict environment to see if it is safe for environment, to see if it is safe for animals, to see that it is safe for human consumption, to see if it produces and if the traits that you selected it for are indeed delivered in different environmental issues. So when at the end of the day, environment puts a stamp and says it is safe for environment, because we need to reach that level. When biosafety authority says it is safe for human consumption, when the department in charge of health says it is okay, it is because they have applied it, they got statistics, they got scientists looking at it and came to the conclusion that there is nothing they have seen which could harm either the human being or the animals or the environment. So at the end of the day, there is no, no harm that can be really directly related to a GMO which is already released because it has met safety conditions. But there had been so many misinformation and sometimes disinformation from those who are interested for different reasons to making it something which should create fear among people. But the reality, when you have data, scientific data, then you don't fear. And Americans who have been developing GMOs, Brazilians who have been developing and consuming it, even South Africa on our continent, where maize consumed in the country are 85% or about GMO product. They don't develop more diseases that we develop, we who have not direct contact with GM product. But they managed to address the issue of hunger, the issue of food security, the issue of nutrition security, which are the key challenges we have in most countries of sub-Saharan Africa. So about safety, there is no special problems that we can relate to GMO.
Well, was there at any point, Dr. Kollo, that the AATF had concerns about these hybrid crops, these modified seedlings, these modified crops, the GMOs? Was there at a point you had some genuine concerns about the implications of their continued development and growth, and then, of course, passed on to humans for consumption? And if you did, what were the steps that were taken to allay those fears?
I was me in myself, and talking about myself. Thank you for asking the question. As when it came to me, I was never afraid, because as a student already I was dealing with GMOs. I was eating GMOs in the US. So I was a student when GMOs were all over everywhere places, and nobody raised the question. So I was very surprised when I came here in Africa, finding that there is a whole literature going on talking about GMOs being a danger. So what? And we were eating. So GMOs, if you say GMO is not for human beings, proper for human beings, it means you consider Americans are not human beings, Canadians are not human beings, Chinese, more than 1 billion Chinese are not human beings, Japanese are not human beings, Brazilians are not human beings, Southern Africans are not human beings, Europeans themselves eating, because they import GMO food, are not human beings. So who is human beings? Who are the human beings? No, it's GMOs are very safe. It is the losers of the technology. Anytime a society gets step forward in a technology, you may get some losers, you get some winners. So it is the losers who are making so much of this noise about GMO. But there are, in research, agricultural research history, there are no other foods so analyzed for safety, and for good reason, for safety, as GMO crops. There are not. They are strangely analyzed. And when there is something doubtful about it, they said to the scientists, stop. We need to find out clearly what's going on here. So these are the best, one of the safest food ever developed by human beings. So a food is natural does not mean that it is safe. You can eat some cassava and die on the spot, because the cassava has cyanide, one of the most potent toxin. Sorghum, young sorghum plants or regrowth, feed cattle on them, the cattle will die. Even cattle will avoid the sorghum plants you eat. So there are some natural products who are very toxic, dangerous. But cassava, we learn to breed and take the glycoside production, most of it. But some varieties are still toxic. So, but we put the sweet one on the market. You take tomatoes. Tomatoes are toxin. They have toxin, alpha-tomatin. So eating green tomatoes are not very safe, as people may think. So, but human beings learn how to breed them out. So it is our business. Food safety is our business, and we can never put something which harm people on market.
I'm sure that you must have heard these arguments that have been made before. For instance, to say that GMOs maybe a direct cause of some diseases that we're beginning to see, diseases like cancer and the rest of them.
I will.
And that, yes, I mean,
If you authorize me, I will tell you even the scientists who develop it. I didn't want to get argued. I want this discussion to be like between brothers and common people worlds. European Union funded free studies, European Union and French, to verify all these claims that GMO food cause cancer. And the same people who are making the claim that GMO, these NGOs making all the claim, they participated in the design on the experiments. All the most important food lab, toxicology lab from Europe, from Spain to Czechoslovakia or to Slovakia participated in the studies for 3 years. And independently, the French also financed their own studies. And they never came up. The conclusion is GMO is safe, GMO does not cause cancer. The guy who published previously the studies, they repeat his studies. It was a French guy who started all these things, saying GMOs will cause cancer. So these new studies funded the European Union, they repeated exactly Sierra Leone's studies for 3 years. They were repeating it, they couldn't find it. So, which means, this is why now you don't hear much more people talking about cancer, because the studies, 4 studies conducted for 3 years found that they are wrong and they could not repeat. So in science, if I publish something and no scientist can repeat it, people will tell me what you did in your paper is not right. Either you falsify your data and you did something wrong. So in science, if nobody can repeat your experiments, you are in trouble. So the guy is in trouble.
Yeah.
GMO food are as safe as any other food you can eat it possibly. So,
but if you allow to add something to that, when it happens that way, there are people who read only that wrong findings and keep it in the mind. And there are people, activists, who have just stayed with that information and did not move with the science development to get all those verifications which took place. That is why at AATF, again, we are prepared to have this dialogue where we talk of data, of science. We provide information and open a platform where if you have data contradicting them, you bring them and we talk transparently, because that is the only way we can bring the knowledge to the fore and help people use knowledge and science data for their decision making and to orient, to decide on their choices. Because otherwise, people will remain fixed on that episode which happened somewhere in a laboratory which may have been guided by just sort of feeling and activism. So we are opening those platforms, and the media will be our partners on those aspects so that we can indeed equip our stakeholders, politicians, policymakers, private sector, and our farmers with the right information on all these.
Now, Dr. Kanagire, let's look at the food crisis on the continent. It's across the world, but I mean, we are focused on the African continent, and it's very pronounced here. And in spite of these modifications, modified crops, the improvements in cropping, seedlings, and in the efforts at getting technology to improve agricultural yields, there is still a lot of food crisis on the continent. If you were to look forward, say in what time frame do you think that these technology will begin to make the desired impact on the food situation on the continent?
Very good question, which called for probably a difficult answer in terms of the time frame. But first of all, I think if we take the right direction, the right policies, the right extension services, the right technologies being brought to the users, in terms of seeds, in terms of tools, in terms of other inputs, in terms of finance which is needed to afford the adoption of those technologies. I'm saying this to show that there are more than technologies. There are a very long list of key challenges that we have. So if all these are brought in, I think we would talk of 1 decade or 2 decades to see the big changes happening and food security being addressed. Some other countries did. Brazil was a food insecure country, but in lapse of I think 2 or 3 decades, they are feeding themselves and exporting a lot of produces, and that done without expanding arable land, but using technologies to increase productivity. So if we adopt it, we will see the differences coming very quickly. In terms of a few decades, we can be able to change sub-Saharan Africa from food insecure land to a food secure one.
So hopefully the narrative should change in a few decades.
Absolutely.
For Africa. So Dr. Kollo, on a final note, what crop is next on the line for modification and for improved seedling and farming?
I think we just had maize were out a few months ago. I think rice is coming in Nigeria, because rice is where we spend a lot of billions of nairas importing rice. So we are the project trying to see how we can cut down on these imports of rice. And I hope the rice project will realize the same thing as the beans project realized in Nigeria. So if you really have to choose one crop, it's rice. And as someone from the north, I mean people like Habib Fura, I would like to see pearl millet to get more Habib Fura in Abuja. So more pearl millet improvement. So I would like,
of course, gari that is made from cassava.
Yeah, no, cassava one.
Yes.
Cassava one is already coming out. It is coming out. Yeah. So cassava will be improving. It is already improved and it is coming out. So no problem. So,
all right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time and for giving us some more education on the AATF. We've been speaking with the man who is at the driver's seat of the AATF, that's the Executive Director, Dr. Canisius Kanagire. He's visiting Nigeria, actually, and he's been joined by Dr. Issoufou Kollo, who is the AATF Regional Representative in West Africa. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having us.
And to you, our viewers out there, we hope that you have learned 1 or 2 things about genetically modified crops and how that technology is going to help to improve food productivity and the entire agricultural chain over the years.